All right, session 2. What I'm going to be doing is telling you a story of Peter coming to Jesus. It's in Matthew 18. This is a true story from the Word of God. It is true and reliable. Peter came to Jesus and asked him, "How many times should I forgive my brother or my sister who sins against me? 7 times?" Jesus answered and said to him, "Not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle his accounts with his servants. As he was looking through his accounts, there was a servant who owed him 10,000 bags of gold. That servant was brought to him, and the servant couldn't pay. So the king said and ordered that the man, his wife, his children, and everything he owned would be sold to pay the debt. At this, the servant fell down on his knees before him. "Please, give me some more time. Have patience with me," he begged, and I'll pay it back. The servant's master had pity on him, and he canceled the debt and let him go. After this, the servant went and he found another one of the servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and he began to choke him, and he says, "Pay back what you owe me." And the servant said, "Please give me some more time and I will pay it back." But the first servant refused. And so he had him hauled off to jail until he could pay back what he owed the first servant. The other servants in the king's employ looked and said, they were outraged at this. So they went and found the king and told him everything that had happened. The king brought this first servant back in front of him and said, "How dare you? I forgave your debt when you begged me, and yet you wouldn't forgive this servant your debt." At this, the king took him and ordered him to be thrown in jail and tortured until he could pay it back. And Jesus said, "This is how it will be with those who do not forgive." This is a true story from the Word of God. It is true and reliable. So let me ask you a question. What does this story say about God, Jesus, or the kingdom? What does this story say about man or the characters in the story? Is there a sin to avoid in the story? Is there a promise to claim? Is there an example to follow? To whom do you identify with in the story? Why? Okay, so that's how it would work. And again, take some time. I realize as I'm doing it, I messed up on 2 or 3 places I can immediately remember. So I'm glad the Word of God is infallible. I'm fallible. So I want you to realize in this, feel free to take it and go back again and look over the story. One of the easiest Bible versions to read that helps tell stories is the New International Version. And so when you go through this, what you want to do is have the interaction that comes out of the story. So, for example, what would we see in this story? 1, Jesus is talking about forgiveness. It's very simple to see that. We know that from the times that we've probably heard this sermon preached. But at the same time, when people interact with it, what do you think? What do you think would be a sin to avoid? So just scribble that down real quick. What about a promise to claim? What about an example to follow? So with those in mind, go ahead and scribble down a few of those. That way, when you're interacting with them, there's a lot of preparation that goes in on your part and my part as we begin to tell stories. So the next thing that you would do is begin to follow about this. There's one thing that I left off, and it's a command to obey. I feel like I left that off. But take some time and continue to work through this. The other side is, what you want to do is you want them to have the conversation with the Word of God. And then after that, then you can take them to the next step of saying, so where are you in Jesus? And this naturally, or supernaturally, will lead into an evangelistic conversation about who sharing your testimony, being able to share a gospel presentation at that point. For example, some people like to use the bridge, being separated from God, and how Jesus is the way to God. So those are some conversations that you can have. All right?